Hi, friends. Thanks for tuning in to the Mental Fitness Unscripted podcast, where our conversation will encourage your healthy living journey. Inspired by our Team Quadzilla coaching motto, healthy living starts between your ears, we talk about mental fitness in ways that challenge us to think about our thinking regarding topics like habits, leadership, exercise, values, marriage, parenting, and faith. Our hope with this podcast is to sharpen you as we sharpen ourselves to be all we were made to be. So let's dive right into the conversation on this episode of Mental Fitness Unscripted.
Well, good morning, Chad. You look awesome. You're all dressed up, collared shirt. Looking good.
Yeah, I'm fancy today. Yeah.
I guess I did wear a tie and suit one time, didn't I?
Yes, you did.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that. So I deserved that, didn't I?
Yeah. all my work from home friends out there will be impressed that I put on a collar today.
Hey, nice going. You know, I don't know that we don't have a subject again, and we probably shouldn't admit that because we're really good at finding one. But
yeah, we are.
There's an interesting.
That's the whole point. I mean, lest anyone forget why we call it what we do. It's because we don't rehearse a plan, and I don't have an agenda, but I do have an idea that occurred to me this morning as I was working through my ice routine. And yeah, for my pain.
Oh, got it. I thought maybe it was an acronym for a workout or something.
No, no, not this time. It's just straight up cold packs.
Nice.
But the idea I wanted to run by you is about pain. And haven't done any research on this, but I have heard kind of through different channels some interesting things about pain that I wonder if we could form a useful discussion. And the first is, did you know that for all the nerve receptors in our body, what percentage do you think are assigned to signaling pain?
Wow. I really don't know. I'm going to say a lot, but I don't know.
Yeah, I assume that too. And somebody told me, or I read somewhere, that it's actually about 10%.
Really?
Yeah.
So when I'm hurt, I just need to ignore it, huh?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah. So
there's a reason for pain. Okay.
Yeah. There's a reason for pain. Of course, I'm talking about physical pain, but what that I mean, there's a few aspects of pain I hope that we can discuss today. One is physical pain, and then other is like, emotional type of pain. So, but for the physical part of pain, because that's been kind of my thing the last few weeks since my surgery, recognizing that, pain definitely has a purpose and a function. And it is a bit surprising that our bodies, as awesome and complex as they are, that only a small percent of our nerve receptors are assigned to signaling pain. And what's curious about that is this idea of a lot of times pain comes when it's too late. In other words, by the time you experience the pain, the thing has already happened, right?
Like burning.
So whether it's a chronic issue or an injury or whatever, my mind went to some of the chronic things where we spend a lifetime making really bad choices or doing really stupid things and thinking that everything is just fine. And then at some point we get the pain, right? But by then we've already done all this damage because our body wasn't signaling pain until it got so bad. And isn't that a lesson for us, or for me at least, that I need to be taking care of myself such that I'm not waiting for pain to occur before I wake up and decide to address it. Does that make any sense?
It makes total sense. I love that you're going here. What's interesting is we all know that we shouldn't do things. Okay, I mean there's a whole laundry list of things that we shouldn't do. For instance, smoke. You know, we shouldn't drink alcohol, and we know that these have bad effects on our body. We shouldn't do drugs. You know, we shouldn't eat Twinkies 24/7.
Yeah.
My apologies to hostess. Yes, I have had a Twinkie in my life, but a long time, really long
Yeah.
time. I can't even think of the last time. But you know, it's interesting that you bring that up because we know better at some things, but yet we continue to do it. You know, we know it's
Yeah.
not good to be sedentary and sit behind desks and, you know, go home and feel like that we've worked really hard and we deserve to sit and watch television the rest of the night. And, you know, oh, Darren Hardy, what is it? He said, wouldn't it be nice if when we ate a great big juicy hamburger and fries, that we just fell down and grabbed our chest and went, oh, that hurts, you know? But we
Yeah.
don't. We don't. And we enjoy what happens there. And I'm going to be first to admit I love a great big hamburger and you know fries.
Sure.
I love them,
Yeah.
especially after a long race and I've depleted a whole bunch of calories. That's my favorite thing is to go buy a hamburger and some fries and a great big shake.
Yeah.
There's my admission to my recovery. But you know, you have to limit that. Um, but yeah, I see where you're going. You know, it's just too bad we don't see the consequences right away. Um,
Yes. Isn't it terrible how the we often talk about laws or principles for how the world works, and that we can try to fool ourselves around these things, but they just are. And one of those I think that we don't often think about is that the consequences for our bad choices are rarely immediate, similar to pain, you
yep,
know.
yep,
Um, and that makes it really hard for us to not do all of these bad things that we know that we're not supposed to do, that can end up creating pain, whether it's a physical pain, or anything else for that matter, because that burger or those Twinkies, they taste really good, they satisfy in the moment, everything is wonderful, and then years later you're like, what in the world, how did this happen to me?
yeah. How did I get
And
here?
the consequences are very delayed.
Yeah, I've heard the analogy used of an airplane leaving Los Angeles headed for Washington D.C. and it's off by just 1 degree.
Mm,
Okay,
yes.
you know the direction is perfect almost, but just that 1 degree. And to give you an illustration of what the 1 degree is, okay, it's not much, but if you take your arm and extend it out, one knuckle, so one space of one knuckle
Mm,
is about 1 degree on
wow. Okay.
at the horizon. Okay, so
Okay.
it is not much.
Wow.
Okay,
Yeah.
it is not much. And for all intents and purposes, it appears that you're headed the right direction.
Yep.
But in the case of an airplane leaving Los Angeles, so, you know, let's say I'm in my 20s and that represents Los Angeles, and Washington, D.C. represents my 50s, you know, 45, 50, 60, whatever you want to call it, but it's a long distance. That airplane leaving Los Angeles, 1 degree off, if it stays there, it will end up in Boston.
Yeah. Not even close. Yeah.
Okay. And then we sit there and we circle the airport and go, how did I get here to Boston? I intended to be in
Yeah.
Washington.
Right. Yeah, it's very true. So my point in sharing that is for my own conviction that, um, I need to be diligent about doing the things, as counterintuitive as they might seem, or as insignificant as they might seem today, because I'm thinking of my future self and I want to avoid the future pains and sufferings so much as I can control that, right? Um, and I think a lot of us, and there are parts of me, just like you said, that don't really care, or I'm not really paying attention to those things, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But for all of the things that I can be conscious of and aware that these matter, these little insignificant things, seemingly insignificant things that I'm doing today as part of how I live my life, absolutely matter for the long term. And because I don't like pain, as I have experienced the last few weeks, I'm reminded that, well, gee whiz, can I avoid some of this by healthy habits and that kind of thing? So anyways, that's where I was going with the physical pain part.
Can I make an argument here, though? You made a statement that, it benefits us in the future. I'm going to say, and I'm going to argue that it benefits you now.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
it will be blatant. It will be blatant later, when we find ourselves in Boston instead of Washington, D.C.
Right.
That's pretty blatant, okay? But when
Yeah.
I'm just outside of Los Angeles, I I mean, it looks absolutely like I'm on my way. But
Yeah.
what happens is on an airplane, commercial airliner, they can actually program something to keep them on track. So it's a tracking system.
Mm.
I use a tracking system for my work. Sorry, I had it buried, but I use a tracking system for my work so that I know what I'm doing, so that I can look at it and go, "Oh yeah, I worked today." Okay,
Yes, I'm on track. Yeah.
I'm on track. But even that system in an airplane, if the wind is blowing up there, it will blow that airplane off track. And what somebody has to physically go in and say, "Oh, we're not we're not on track. I've got to adjust this and then reprogram that to my
Mm.
tracking system." And see, I even have that in my business. I have a tracking system for my tracking system. Okay. And so what we have to do, and where I'm going with this is yes, it benefits me right now. If I avoid a hamburger because I just feel like I deserve it, I've worked hard, I don't want to cook, I'm going to go to Culver's or Carl's Jr. or whatever,
Yeah.
and I'm going to buy a hamburger just so I don't have to deal with it. I can make that choice and it's okay. I'd probably be okay. I'm not going to die, maybe, from that one hamburger, maybe. But if I here's how I'm going to put it. If I stay true to what I've made a decision to do, my confidence just builds so that the next
Mm.
time I'm tempted by it at the wrong time, I don't have to deal with that. Now,
Yes.
am I saying don't ever eat hamburgers again? No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But be on purpose
Yeah.
about it. Know what you're doing. Okay.
Yes.
And even if you do that, reprogram your thing and get back on track. Otherwise, you'll end up in Boston.
That's right. Yeah, I love that, because it's very true that we're not going to be perfect, and
No,
don't let anybody think that I'm preaching this because I've got it all figured out and I'm doing it
I don't.
perfectly, because that's not it at all. In fact, I was just writing this morning in my journal that I say that I do every day, and I just realized that I forgot to write yesterday, and the date proves it. I'm like, oh, and I didn't even realize that I had missed it. And so
Back
then
to
as I was writing,
back
I
to that.
thought, okay, here's the thing: don't miss twice, because now you're starting a new pattern. So if my intention is to write every day, and for whatever reason I miss a day, well, just don't miss 2 days. Get right back on it, and you know continue the habit. But to your point exactly, we always have to be recalibrating and measuring and marking how we're doing there. Make sure we're staying on track.
Yep. And that calibration, that review, that keeping your promise to yourself too is just such a confidence builder for the times that you will be tempted.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true.
So, is there a benefit now? Absolutely. And if you do
Yeah.
that the whole trip over, you will be so confident by the time you get to Washington, D.C., that it is just a foregone conclusion that you're going to be in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have to guess at it.
Yeah, that's good. That's true.
Guess at it. So anyway, I had a thought. Do you ever find yourself sometimes thinking, okay, I'll start Monday, or I'll do this at the first of the month.
First of the month.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
New Year's resolution, or
Yep.
you just keep picking this time thing, and it's almost like we can pull the batteries out of time and say, okay, it's going to stop until I'm ready. I'm going to stop the clock. I'm going to
Yeah.
pull the batteries out so that it doesn't tick, and then I'll start Monday. I'll put the batteries back in, and we'll go.
Mm-hmm.
And I am totally guilty of this, but the thing is that our flight from Los Angeles to Washington D.C. doesn't stop. The airplane doesn't stop
Yeah.
in the middle of the air. We are continuing,
Yes.
and time just doesn't stop. It's the time to start is right now. Okay, there's two good times to plant a tree: 20 years ago and right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
There's two good times to start working out: 20 years ago and right now.
And right now.
There's two
Yep.
times to stop eating hamburgers. I'm beating up on hamburgers, and I love them. I really do. I'm really bad. Maybe that's why I'm talking about them, is I need to do better. But there's a time to regulate that, and that's 20 years ago, and then right now. So
Yeah.
don't do the when then thing. I'll start when I'm ready. Just start.
Yeah. Just start. You're never going to be perfectly ready. And yeah,
And I'm preaching to the choir.
that's true.
I'm preaching to
Yeah.
me. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I've taken this off the rails. Go back to pain here.
Yeah. No, that's good. I love how the springboard of an idea can lead us into something that is helpful and valuable. But back to the first idea about pain. I was thinking also about other kinds of pain, like emotional pain, that is often much more difficult to address, I think. But a lot of the same principles apply, I believe. And I guess where I wanted to go with that part is, especially in terms of relationships, because I think a lot of a lot of the emotional pain that we have are related to other people, right? We feel like we've been hurt by somebody else, or there's some kind of injustice in our life that's caused by another person. And so what do we do about that kind of pain? And of course, the obvious, easy answers are, well, you've got to figure out how to forgive, because, not forgiving is just like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Well, yeah, that's maybe a bit obvious and maybe a bit cliche even, because we all know that it's not that easy. Yet it's necessary. So I don't know what your experience is with that, but I was challenged the other day that, Scripture tells us that we are to turn the other cheek and to pray for those who persecute you, or who hurt you, or who hate you, or whatever. And those are really hard things to do. And I thought, well, lucky for me, I don't have that problem because nobody hates me, and I'm fine. And then I thought about it some more, and I'm like, that actually isn't true. Um, there are people who have hurt me, and sometimes I still feel kind of icky about that. And clearly there's unresolved pain. And so I don't know. That's my story a little bit. What do you think about that, or how have you dealt with such a thing?
The emotional side of things is really we. There's a lot we don't know, but there's a lot we do know, and I'm not even sure where to start because it's a thing that we can carry with us, and in some terms, I think we have to carry it. In other words, if somebody does something to me and it's totally, let's say I'm abused when I was young or something, okay? I have to carry that with me so that I can judge the next time I'm in a relationship and say, oh, I've seen this before. I've got to be careful. Now, here's where I see a problem is that sometimes we carry that and say, we identify who that person was. Let's say it's an old gray haired guy like me. He's an old gray haired guy like who hurt me, so therefore he will hurt me like the old. And we start we
Yeah.
start we start to lump things together because of they're a Democrat or they're a Republican, and therefore they'll act this way. And we start to label that, and we carry this baggage, and what we do is we find things to add to our baggage to justify our we
Mm,
we have to feel right about our
yeah.
decision, about our emotional decision. We have to feel right. um, and we could spend weeks on this, but there's a
I know it's
lot
a little bit heavy.
there's a lot that we know, and what's interesting is we try to apply it generally. But what's funny is the emotional side of things is very, very individual. And so my perspective of something will be very different than Chad's perspective. It will be
Mm,
different than Emily's or Charles, or we all have this different feel. I'll give you an example. A snake. If you and I see a snake,
mm,
I know what my reaction is, and therefore everybody
yeah.
should react that way, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you're crazy.
And I had a bad experience with the snake, so therefore everybody had a bad experience with the snake. And since we've
Yeah.
all had a bad experience with the snake, we should destroy all the snakes, right? And that's kind of what we do with the emotional side of things sometimes is we just add this baggage to where we're
Mm,
so weighed down that it becomes truth. And I'm using air quotes here because it becomes a perception, and it's I hate to say our truth because I don't like that phrase. Truth is truth. It stands on its own, and I can't
yes.
change it. Okay,
Right.
I can't change that. Snakes are good because they keep rodents down. Okay, there,
Yeah.
there is a reason that they're around. Okay, um, I'm sure
A
they're
person's perception is their reality, though, is where you're going, right? I
right,
think.
and therefore it becomes their truth, and therefore it should be
Yeah.
everybody else's truth. Okay,
Yeah.
and I'm going. I promise I'm headed to a spot here with it. We'll come back around. That's where the forgiving comes is okay, I've got to look at the other person and see how they perceive this. I felt abused. They may not have felt like they were abusing me. Now, were they or weren't they? I don't know what
Mm,
their perception is. I don't know what their experience is. That may have been what they grew up with and it was normal.
mm,
Their normal is different than my normal. And so me forgiving and giving that away is life-changing, okay?
Yes.
But I have to carry part of that with me so that next time I see that coming, whether it's from that
Mm.
person or someone else, I can judge and say, "No, I'm not going here."
Yeah.
And it's a protection mechanism, but I think here's my opinion. I think society allows us to put too much to it.
Yeah.
And it's not healthy. It's not healthy. What it does is it really fractionalizes us and puts everybody in a bucket and
Mm.
we're quick to put people in buckets um, really
Yeah.
fast. And what's funny is it's usually because we don't know that person or we don't know their background. And when we do start to learn about them and start to find out about them, what's funny is it can all dissipate. But in society now, that's not the norm. We judge them, put them in the box, and avoid them. And
Yep. That's
you
it.
stay there.
Yeah.
You stay there. Okay. I'll give you an example. Um, I grew up fairly poor. Okay. And just trying to crawl out from underneath that. My wife and I got married. We had a very humble home. We were raising 5 children in a 1,000 square foot home. We were just on top of each other, but we were
Yeah.
happy.
Wow.
We were happy, and we really didn't know any different. But we started to put some money together, and we started to prosper, and we moved to a home. It, we actually moved to one home, and then we're in the home that we're in now. Well, our home that we're in now is 4,400 square feet. Okay, so way bigger. And what's funny is one of our children's friends came to our home not long after we moved here from that smaller home. And he came in and he looked around and he just looked and he said, "I didn't realize you guys could do this." And just started to.
Hmm.
And what had happened, and there's a lot more behind this story, but these people that we lived in this small home. We actually lived by some pretty affluent people. And this kid that came to our house lived in a house that was about 7,000 square feet. But see, we were that 1,000 square foot home, and they had put us in that box.
Mm.
And when we left that, it totally unhinged. We were close friends with this kid's parents, and
Okay.
after we had moved away, we had threatened where our status was with them so much
Mm.
that they distanced themselves from us.
No kidding.
And still to this day, I mean, we're friendly, but it's very uncomfortable for them to see us because we
Hmm.
we, we got out of
The box that they
the
had put
box
you in.
that
Wow.
they had just determined that this is who you are.
Wow.
Okay, and we do that emotionally too. We don't
Yeah.
allow people to grow, and the way that we allow people to grow is, I forgive you. Now, am I going to forget what happened? No. And we're not going there again. And if you do it again, you're just going to, I'm
Yeah.
just going to stay away more. But I'm going to allow you to prove that you're not that person to me. Now, am I
Mm.
am I going to be careful? Absolutely. Am I going to watch you? Absolutely. Like a hawk,
Yeah.
because I know what's happened. But by me forgiving someone, I'm allowing them to make a change. Now, that's
Yeah.
on them. Okay? That's on
Right.
them. But if I harbor that, it's to your point, I'm just drinking the poison. It
Yeah.
poisons me. Okay? Because I'm all hung up on what you did. And what it does is it places me in a victim position. Okay? And I allow
Yes.
you to have control of me because of that. And so by forgiving, you give the control back to them of whether they can change or not. and you take back your control and say, I'm moving on.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
free.
I don't have to drag you with me. I'm moving on.
Yes. Yeah. Oh man, that is so true. Yeah, especially about the putting into the buckets, and assuming that they can't ever change that, and so it's stuck there, and that's just really not true. And we certainly wouldn't want others to feel that way about us.
Well, no, no,
I'm a very different person than I was 10 years or 20 years ago. And
we should all be.
I would hope, yeah, I would hope other people would allow for that in me rather than leave me in whatever that previous bucket was. So um, that's pretty convicting because I need to be able to do that for other people too if I'm expecting them to do that for me, obviously. So that's a really good. Thank you for sharing that.
Which one takes more courage and more strength to do? Just to drag it along behind you, or to absolutely give it away and say, you know what, I'm moving on.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, I allow you to be who you are. You know, you get that choice. I'm going to allow you to change if you choose to, but I'm
yeah,
moving on.
yeah,
That takes courage and it takes a lot of strength.
yeah. And but it's healthy though. I think that's
Well,
to your point. We versus dragging along all the yuckiness that comes with whatever that emotional pain was. We have we have freedom on the other side of that forgiveness that I think is super healthy. So trite or as cliche as that line might be about the poison, it is absolutely true, and we need to find our way through that.
yeah.
So I'm preaching to myself here very much.
Well,
Thank you.
and me too. I mean, we all deal with this, and
Yeah,
I'm the first one to say this is difficult. That's why I say it takes a lot of strength and a lot of courage to do that. But if you drag them along with you, who wins?
yeah,
Who wins? I mean, they do because they're. What's funny is they're not thinking about it, but you're consumed with it.
hmm, yeah. It's a key preventer or obstacle for us to be our healthy best in whatever that looks like for you. Is we've got to be able to get rid of these things. So
Yeah,
that's super good.
and it's difficult. I'm the first one to admit it is so hard. It is so
Yeah,
hard, and you know we just have to be so vigilant. I mean, it's a conscious thing, and
yeah,
if I'm super hurt, and you know, my heart just goes out to people that have gone through this really super difficult hurt. Um,
hmm,
but it's hard. But as much as you can, just yeah,
yeah,
you know, I make it sound easy. Just leave it behind and cut it off, and I make it sound it's hard.
yeah,
It's really hard because number one, you gotta remember it so that you don't go there again. But at the same time, you gotta let it go as much as you
yeah,
can.
yeah. That's the other part of pain is that it's an excellent teacher,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, much better than you know success or joy or pleasure or whatever. Pain teaches, and we are wise to heed that, but we can't also, in certain cases, let it define and um, keep us.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is really good. I appreciate the story that hits home pretty good.
So did we talk about what you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really know where it would go, but I think pain is something that we can all identify with, and I think it's important just to talk about it. And hopefully this can encourage somebody else too, as it has me today.
Well, I'm going to ask you a question. Can you prepare for pain? Can you can you train for pain?
Uh, Well, I think we said it several weeks ago. The more you, how does it go? The more you sweat in training, the less you bleed in battle.
Yep.
So I would say yes. Um, I think there's a mental fortitude that can be trained, regardless of the circumstance. And I think also it depends very much on where your ultimate hope lies. You know, if it's in yourself or if it's in something higher and more powerful. These things can prepare us for pain. And for me, it's also knowing that all of this life here is very temporary. And eternity is a very long time. And I'm practicing for that. So that kind of perspective helps pain have less power, I guess.
Yeah. What's funny is we've been promised that we will have pain, but we've also been promised that we have a way out.
Yes.
Okay. And I I ask you that question because, you know, people don't want to go there. I don't want to practice for pain. Um,
Yeah, right.
and I'm not suggesting that you take a needle and shove it in your arm, every hour just as a workout, but
Right.
that's not my suggestion. But I think I told the story. Did I tell the story about the train engineer that had predetermined what
Yes.
would happen, if there
Yep.
was a derailment?
The pre-mortem, that was a good lesson.
And yeah, the pre-mortem. I think we can do that with pain, both physically and
Mm,
emotionally. I think we can do that and say, okay, if I get into this situation, what will I do?
yeah.
By the way, we've got less than a minute. Can you
Oh,
believe it?